welcome to Bread and Butter. We have Daniel from OmniX. We have Zin and Stark from HypeX. And these guys build dynamic NFTs, and they're also doing things on BNB. I'm going to just go back and forth between both of you. Either of you can answer any of these questions, actually. So Daniel, actually, I'll start with you first. What is OmniX?
Let's do it. Yeah. Hey, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Daniel. I'm a founder and CEO of OmniX. So OmniX is the first natively omni-chain NFT platform built on top of Layer 0 protocol and Stargate. Basically, our main mission is to unite communities and liquidity for NFTs from all EVM and non-EVM support chains and provide a simple and single platform where people can effortlessly trade and exchange digital collectibles with each other. At the core level, we have three main features. The first one is cross-chain NFT liquidity. With us, you can go from USDC on Ethereum to a NFT on BNB Chain in a single transaction, or you can go from BUSD on BNB Chain to NFT on Arbitrum, let's say, in a single transaction. So really, we are like fully removing boundaries when it comes to cross-chain NFT trading and also boosting the discovery/exploration process, because now, people from Ethereum will be exposed to NFTs on BNB chain and they can buy them in one click. And we do all the bridging and all that messy stuff on the back end for you. Our second thing that we offer is a omni-chain NFT launchpad. So omni-chain NFTs are just like regular NFTs. The main difference is that they have Layer 0 built in natively, which allows them to have a few pretty unique properties. Main one is an ability to exist on multiple chains at the same time as a native asset. So for an example, you can launch a ONFT collection, have a total supply of 1,000 pieces, and you can allocate 300 pieces to Ethereum, 300 pieces to BNB Chain, 300 pieces to Arbitrum, and then 100 more pieces, to Optimism or something.
You have a single NFT, and this can actually get bridged to any blockchain and still remain to be the same exact NFT?
Right, correct. Yeah, so the collection remains the same. The token, like the token ID, the NFT piece itself gets bridged in between the chains.
It's the same NFT, but it's also changing. So is this? Can I like explain how that works?
Right. So there are like two concepts here that we kind of have to dive in. So the first one is called trusted remote. So in Layer 0, basically every omni-chain smart contract maintains a mapping / it's usually a mapping of its counterparties on other chains. So during the deployment process, you have to put it in and you'll be like, okay, you live on BNB chain, but your counterparty is on Ethereum chain with this address. Your counterparty on Arbitrum, is on this address. So basically every ONFT smart contracts or any other omni-chain smart contract powered by Layer 0, it stores this mapping of chain IDs and addresses. And this way it always knows who to communicate with on another chain. And it also makes it more secure because once you set this trusted remotes, any other contract cannot interact, cannot cross-chain communicate, cannot do this cross-chain communication with this contract.
That's pretty
cool. So that's like the first thing.
Yeah. So it just so I understand, it's trusted remote. You're saying that Layer 0 is actually storing the map itself, and all you're doing is basically saying, hey, store this ONFT. It's like it's metadata on Layer 0, and then whenever it goes from chain to chain, Layer 0 is essentially like telling these other chains, hey, this NFT is now on this chain or this chain or this chain. Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, almost. So Layer 0 itself doesn't store anything. It's not a network. It's a primitive, right? So in its essence, Layer 0 is really just a AWS relayer and the Chainlink Oracle plugged in. That's kind of the default configuration that we're working with now. So all the information is being stored on chain in the NFT smart contract itself. So they do get a little thick because you have to store all that data, but it does secure and help a lot.
So Zin, I know that you guys are also doing something, but I don't know what you guys are exactly doing. Can you explain what what is your protocol doing and how does it work and where does it start from beginning to end? Because I think you guys are doing something similar, but you're just doing it in different ways.
For us, we're more focusing on the utility side of the NFT, and also we have a new platform that we pretty much like tokenize the whole NFT collections into fungible tokens. So therefore, people can trading the fractionalized pieces and increase liquidity, but also can using the mapping tokens to redeem NFT when they want. But in general, HypeX is a utility NFT protocol that we providing different SDKs, APIs for creators who wants to launch NFTs with different utilities. For example, like people can launch their membership NFT with loyalty programs, with ticketing, everything. What we do is like we store all the metadata informations or those utilities on chain. So therefore, no matter you are using this front end interface to using these utilities, or you are using another interface, everything will be stored on chain. So therefore, people will be able to use the utilities even from different interfaces. So that's pretty much high level like what we do. But definitely, yeah, we're super interested, what OmniX are doing, because we actually are looking for solutions to supporting NFTs, like deploy on different chains. I personally, I looked into like Layer Zero, what they do, but definitely, would love to learn more about, how OmniX.
Okay, so wait, so are you guys saying that you guys can actually use OmniX in the HyperX sort of protocol to like utilize and tokenize like various collections using OmniX's sort of method of I don't know what to call it, Daniel. I mean, what would you say like is the dynamicy of OmniX? Because what I'm really trying to get to the meat of here is what is considered to be dynamic when we talk about dynamic NFTs, because I think there's so much confusion around this idea. So what is the way that something like an ONFT you believe could kind of fit in with other projects protocols? Is it intended for that, or is it more of like a standalone NFT?
Absolutely no. ONFTs are pretty much meant to take over the entire space, and we can see it happening live today. Pudgy Penguins announced that they will be moving to Omnichain NFT standards to go Omnichain, and so really there are various benefits that creators of different from different verticals and of different caliber could get from ONFTs. But kind of like the main theme is that you can build your community across multiple chains, right? So you're not encapsulated just by ETH or just by BNB. You can really source people from everywhere. You can take, and like second thing, because of the same property, you can also take your project. We call it like cross metaverse, but it could be called cross platform, cross metaverse. Basically, your project could be integrated into multiple metaverses / games / protocols on multiple chains.
Yeah, totally. I think definitely what they do is providing like interface or infrastructures for projects, to launch cross-chain NFTs. But definitely, that's how we can collab. In order to, I think today's topic is dynamic NFT. From our understanding of dynamic NFTs, it's dynamic NFTs, sort of NFTs that can be changeable by the outside data called by Oracle. So for example, like it's in-game NFTs, and let's say the game assets will be changed by stock drop or stock pump based on like real life data. So therefore, the NFTs will dynamic changed based on the data input that people are generated. So that's my understanding of like the dynamic NFTs. But definitely, we do have working with different collections with clients, to generate those dynamic NFTs. For example, the NFTs will be changed based on the local data, like the local weather data, etc. So
Chainlink does a lot of this, right? Like Chainlink, it talks a lot about like the dynamices of how NFTs are going to change. But I guess what we're trying to understand is what is really you guys, like, how do you guys differentiate from like the normal definition of what a dynamic NFT is considered to be? How do you see it?
Well, well, for us, I think dynamic NFTs are a little bit different because unlike HypeX, like we're not really dwelling into these like custom extensions built on top of Chainlink necessarily. We have a few extensions on NFT standards that are pretty cool, like our gasless extension that I attached in the Telegram channel. But for us, this dynamic property mostly comes from bridging NFTs and moving them across chains. So there are like for us this like dynamic property mostly comes from being able to bridge and like change metadata, or you can even have custom smart contracts on each chain that could be different too. That's like another, I guess, dynamic use case. Like you can mint a vanilla NFT, on BNB Chain, let's say, or I guess more on Ethereum, you mint a vanilla, very gas optimized NFT, right? Like nothing special, and then you move it over to BNB Chain, and all of a sudden the BNB Chain smart contract supports all this, really cool features like, I don't know, like on-chain gaming mechanics, I don't know, like lending mechanics, maybe something like art gobblers, which is like a weird kind of almost NFT-fi mechanism that they created at Paradigm. So yeah, I would say for us, like dynamic NFTs are like ONFTs could be dynamic if you want them to be.
Love that. What was the problem that you guys saw that made you guys start this project? So Zin, I'm actually curious your on your take on this. With HyperX, what did you see was a problem, and what was like HyperX's original solution, and how has that evolved?
Ground Zero, we felt the NFT should have more usage, and also we try to leverage the smart contract composability and making sure so you have a new series of the NFT or have existing NFT. There's some way for you to enter the arena that you can make this one to be more usable for your owners there. So I know there's a lot of new standard, new protocols emerging, but we trying to do is to keep the original NFT to be intact, but in the meanwhile leverage the composability, and we stack up on the usability. But of course, there's certain operations need to go through our bridge protocols there. But we use our bridge protocols to connect the NFT, whether it's a newly issued or existing one, with the utility contract, so that they can compose any usage you want in terms of ticketing, membership, or any other usage you can think of. That's the way we're thinking of about the dynamic NFT.
So, like the function of
stacking up all
the function of a contract changes. So it's one thing, but it's more composable in terms of what it's capable of actually doing.
That's exactly. So think about the Lego land. So Lego where all the usage is a piece of the Lego. You can stack up on your NFT. Your original NFT become the key to turn on, turn off certain features. But the possibility is unlimited. But in the meanwhile, as Stock mentioned, we also feel for the NFT, the liquidity is the problem. So that's why we are building up a protocol also to help to increase the liquidity. But that probably is separate from the usage part. But these two combined together, we feel will make it's the critical piece, make it useful, make it more liquid. Those two things we feel is like
interesting
foundation to make the NFT more mainstream.
And
that's
so
where we get started.
yeah. And the composability that you're speaking about, what makes it change is really the you guys mentioned that you're changing it using Oracle data. So is this the approach, or like can you kind of explain how, like I want to know how an ONFT once it's able to kind of be cross bridged between all these different chains, how can this single NFT have more composable features and functions and certain utilities that the HypeX can then launch and leverage on top of an ONFT. What are you guys thinking in terms of how you're intending to make something more composable in terms of an NFT's function? Yeah, like let's put liquidity to the side for a second and just think, what is it that you guys are actually doing to actually enable these like composable features that you're kind of talking about? You want to explain that a little bit?
Yeah, I think as getting into a little bit technical details here
That's fine.
essentially we're a bridge protocol that connect the NFT ownership with the utility, so that once we verified your ownership and you can authorize any of the usage and through the utility protocols, and you can think of utility protocols to be something add-on, and it can be unlimited, and we can open up even for the third-party developers to create this one. I think that's the beauty of setting up an ecosystem, and then they can connect through a standard protocol interface, then make any of the NFT to be some utility token.
Love
That's how we
that.
do it. Yeah,
Oh,
and then
got it. So you're authorizing the usage of various utilities that a single NFT interfaces with using a bridge, and this is the way that a single NFT can then have multiple functionalities. So does this mean that an NFT, can actually upgrade itself over time using like new utilities that are added?
absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely. You touched the corner on it. Yeah, it's the flexibility coming from the composability, for sure.
That's really cool. So, this is pretty insane, actually. So, I hope this is actually kind of combining some of the idea, because I think now I'm beginning to see how this is all kind of piecing itself together. Because I understand now what the motivation is, because I think you guys are not doing different things that are the same thing. I think you guys are actually building towards what the ultimate NFT is eventually going to really be. It's going to be, I mean, in my head, I'm seeing how an ONFT cross-chain NFT is going to enable community and the dynamics of cross-chain protocol, existing on different chains, while you have the functionality actually being more composable and flexible using the HyperX protocol, both of which are a way of making an NFT dynamic. Am I wrong in assuming that? Because I don't know if there is a true definition of dynamic NFTs, because I was under the assumption that dynamic NFTs changed only based on the Oracle data.
Um, I think it has a, I don't think a very definitive definition about the dynamic NFT, but I think it covers a wide spectrum about the different experiment practice. And what we're doing and OnF is doing is, I think it's from a different angle to try to address, making the NFT to be more usable and also can be morphed into different, utilities there. And they're more working from cross chains infrastructure layers, or we're more working on the add-on into the utility contract, all this stuff. I think we're working on a different angle, and definitely is compatible or complementary to each other. I think probably we can piggyback on their cross chain infrastructure and make this composability to be cross chain. It's totally possible. Right now we're working on mostly EVM compatible, but love to explore the possibility to work with them and making this one to be more layer 2 sidechain EVM compatible and non-compatible is all possible. Just we probably need to bring our bridge and our utility contracts into a different chain so that it can work cross the bridge. Even the asset actually can stay on the main chain. You can through bridge the asset and then use proxy or wrapped asset, and to composed with some utility contract on the side chain or different chains is all possible. I
Wow.
think
Well,
it's all possible.
that's the thing here, that ONFTs are by definition superior to wrapped or synthetic NFTs, and that's why we started this project. Because Wormhole also has a bridge for NFTs, but any wrapped asset is trash compared to a native asset, right? It always carries this counterparty risk that the bridge might go down, or any other non-permissionless component in the architecture might go down or become malicious. But like ONFTs, the only security risk is pretty much if layer 0 relayer colludes with Chainlink Oracle, which is close to pretty much impossible, especially after all the security upgrades that the guys have put in the last year since they launched. So that's like the main thing here is that ONFTs are like, they should be a public good, and they kind of are already. They're published on their MIT license on Layer 0 GitHub repo. And you have a very good picture here on the very right of the slide, Dylan, where like ONFT is on the very bottom, on the building block, because that's what it is. It's just the very basic format, and then we at OmniX, we're building a few interesting things on top of it. So as I mentioned, we have a gasless ONFT. We have almost done working on a open edition ONFT smart contract, so it's going to be 1155, not 721. But other than that, like creators and you guys like HypeX, it's a perfect use case for us because we want to onboard people to this new tooling, right? This new format, and demonstrate that it's still fully composable with everything else in the NFT world. You can use ONFTs and NFTFi protocols in games, all the same, right? So it's actually kind of perfect because you guys can demonstrate that you can take the basic ONFT, then you can take our extension, for example, a gasless ONFT, right? If you want to sponsor gas for your users. And then on top of it, you can build in your Oracle features, you can build in API features, you can build in, I don't know, like randomness, like if it's some kind of like gambling NFT. Any kind of like customization is very much welcomed. And this is what we're kind of working towards, enabling this customization for projects like yours, and then people like one-on-one artists.
This is interesting. You guys are actually both like there's a lot of really interesting things that actually can be born out of this. Like and just out of curiosity, what, in my head, dynamic NFTs, I mean, I love both approaches. It seems like both of them actually work really well together, depending on like what somebody else is going to end up doing, right? Somebody's going to walk in, they're going to do something, and they're going to take these different components and then piece the two together. So how do you guys work on something like that out? Are you open to having people like, taking some, aspects of these like two ideas and kind of putting it together? What is, what use case would you like to see all of this, or individually yours and yours, to kind of be put into something? Do you guys mainly think it's going to be involved with gaming, or do you think it's going to be mainly involved with DAO tooling? Or like, what's your original, like the inception of these ideas? Where did you originally see these being placed, Daniel?
I think for us, the three main verticals of creators who we're very closely looking at and working with are actual artists, category, PFP collections, and then gaming. So if we're talking about combining dynamic NFTs and maybe some Oracle data, I think PFPs would be last on the list. They don't really need it. It's more about like building community/culture. I think probably games would be the first, because they can really not only change the metadata of the asset when it's bridged across the chains, but they can also like change the function of that asset. So cool. I don't know, like you can have a cross-chain game where if an NFT lives on BNB Chain, it's like offensive type, right? It has like high attack skills and like low defense skills. But then, you might have to like rebalance your army, rebalance your strategy, and you move it over to like Polygon, and you get a more defensive unit. So if you combine that with oracles, right, and you add like even more this gamification to it, I think that could work very well. Well, like you can even almost make a game, like a cross-chain game, where depending on a price of a native coin on those chains, like the NFTs get weaker or stronger, right?
I love that.
That could be an interesting.
I love that. I love that analogy. And like, I love where the token can actually change and interface itself, but actually the stats actually change, and the game can actually change depending on what chain you're using. So That's really cool. Hopefully everybody who's like on BNB gets like max attack skill, and then everyone on Ethereum gets like the highest charisma stat, and like everybody on like Polygon has like the most friends or something. I don't know. Like it's like lots of
No,
stuff.
I think there's a huge opportunity there to use blockchains as the actual like factions, because the tribalism in the space is always very high, right? Like people are beefing all the time, especially in the alternative L1 space. And I think there are a lot of like creative ways that creators can really put to work and not only capitalize but really provide like a fun and entertaining
That's so
outlet for
cool. I
these
think the
things.
culture too, the artists can have a lot of fun with what their interpretation is of the chain. So Zin, what's your idea on this? Like I mean, I'm hearing artists in games, which is also what I was thinking, but is this also what you guys are mainly kind of focused on? Mainly in terms of like who's going to be using it?
Yeah, gaming certainly is a big the vertical actually we want to get in there, and then across the game NFTs there, so it's a big arena we want to fight on. So and also we think there's the membership type of I'm talking about more in the family of the membership. So it could be different things. The membership you wanna have a fan club, then you want to build your community, but you want to use the ownership of the NFT to decide certain perks or access to the events, access to the different airdrop possible. So those type of things, I think it will have a good combination between the Web2 marketing activities there with the Web3 NFT, all the things. We feel this one that can open the door for a big traffic and then can yeah, it could be a big use case.
I love this. Yeah.
Um,
Your membership, like the only one that I'm familiar with, which is mainly like in terms of the subscription of a membership, is like with Superfluid.
yeah.
So yeah, like who are you guys talking to right now? That kind of piques your guys' interest. What sort of maybe you can't say, but like maybe anybody that you can say in terms of what sort of protocols are you kind of attaching yourself to like have HyperX work on?
I'll let Stark maybe address this question.
Cool.
Yeah, so currently, we are on, B2B models, pretty much just trying to get feedbacks and building, use cases and case studies into the NFT space that, NFTs are not only just, can building like PFP projects, but can actually, by using in the real world businesses that can actually empower their, original businesses. So therefore, we are working with clients who's building like music festivals, who's in fashion, who's in, luxury products, and also who's making like animations, etc. Who's trying to turning their IPs into NFTs, and people will be able to use their NFTs to entering like different games. Yeah, that's pretty much like our angle. Our angle is just believing NFTs. So far, we think comparing with like fungible tokens or like other protocols, right? NFTs are actually attracting major audiences even outside of Web3 space. And we've been saying, many of new traditional or Web2 businesses are actually into the space. I don't know if you guys are watching the Greek car brand like Poach. They recently just launched their NFTs, and of course like Starbucks. So we've been seeing the opportunities there. But so far, after we working with clients and talking to, clients, we realize, a lot of those traditional brands, they don't really understand NFTs, and they don't know what will be some use cases that they can, leverage NFTs to get into the Web3s. So therefore, our one of our core angles right now from the utility side is we're trying to find different use cases and building different utilities to helping those brands and companies or businesses.
Yeah. So
to
what have you found helps the most then? Like in your experience and working in this space for so long, what are some of those tools and utilities that you think and see actually being deployed or developed or being worked on that does actually bridge this gap between businesses actually to feel even remotely comfortable to get into Web3? Because I know it's like not every developer is a business, savant. So, but what have you seen? What is it that like you actually would need I guess like further kind of insight in?
Yeah, definitely. So after we talked to so many businesses that are in Web 2 or traditionally industries, and we realized a lot of them, they don't have knowledge about Web 3 or NFTs. The reason why they want to deploy their NFTs or deploy their, for example, like GameFi product is because first they want to incentive their existing members, no matter their brands or their e-commerce platforms, they want to using NFTs to helping them incentive their existing members. And second is from like marketing purpose, they want to use NFTs to first, branding themselves into the metaverse or into the Web3 already, and second, to leveraging the power of blockchain to helping them attract more users or more customers to see their brands, to use their products. So that's the two core, value propositions currently we've been saying, what are those traditional Web2 business are looking for.
The existing members, I would say, are like subscribed members to some sort of platform or game. So like that's where you're looking for. And then the incentive is to like take these assets and then actually broaden their scope. But what have you seen, Daniel, that you see actually works when with the projects that actually integrated ONFT, and what was their value proposition to their to their user base?
Right. So, I mean, so far, the most successful ONFT collections have been all PFPs, right? So, the one that's kind of been popping recently is Kanpai Pandas. We're friends with them and been doing a bunch of partnership stuff with them too. And then Ghost to Ghost was kind of the first production-ready NFT collection, also PFP that took off. So, I think PFPs are good just because they're easy to grasp and understand. And even if they're not dynamic, which is the case with Kanpai Pandas, I'm sure they don't change when you bridge them from one chain to another. It still allows you to really like grow the community, and beyond that, I think ONFTs just represent the actual ethos of Web3, because what they do is like when you have such a fluid, natively cross-chain structure, you enable people to move between chains very, very easily, right? And most of the time, it's also pretty cheap. Um, and what happens is when people get this flexibility, right, this ultimate flexibility of where they want to hold their digital assets or digital collectibles, um, the power really shifts to those very people and to the protocols like us who are building this stuff. Because now, instead of like watching your NFTs go down on some like bizarre chain that's, not maybe feeding your thesis anymore, or the chain is having like leadership issues, or, whatever problem might be, now you don't have to be stuck there. You don't have to like scramble for those like liquidity that might be left on the chain. You can just move over.
I love
I would say
that. Yeah. So you guys, I mean, that kind of circles back to what was your main motivation to begin with when you started building. So I think you guys both really see the future extremely clearly about the potential that you're adding in terms of the utility of how these certain tokens can then be leveraged to enhance a product. Because I mean, in my understanding, it's now you have a digital artifact that can not only be cross-chain and change and have all of these different values and also be more secure, you are also enabling them to be extremely composable and flexible, meaning the actual asset changes in real time, its function changes in real time, the way it interacts with other objects inside of the metaverse also may change as well. So this is what I think people are very curious about, is to hear your guys' opinion on where you actually see this kind of evolving into. And I love going again back to games, because games are really clear for somebody to kind of conceptualize. And so my question to you guys is, what do you struggle with then? Because like, I mean, it's hard to see the future of like a lot of the stuff that we're building, and there's a lot of tools on BNB. There's a lot of there's a lot of things that a lot of programmers are doing that is very different, and it's hard to kind of connect everyone's ideas. There's a lot of missteps along the way in the journey of actually developing a protocol and what it is that you're kind of seeking for. So can you, I mean, if you're open to it, I'd love to know what it is that you guys are actually kind of faced with the most in terms of being a part of the open source, a part of building something that everyone is going to use and be able to use and help utilize and empower businesses and empower creators and artists and gamers and all sorts of people alike. It's as amazing as it is. There's obviously a lot of pain points that you guys actually kind of face on a day-to-day basis, and I think it's exciting to know that there's an opportunity for people to find a way to kind of get in, know how to help, know how to enable you guys. So yeah, what are some of your pain points that you've been facing recently that we can kind of open the community up to, where they can try to see how they can get involved?
For us, most of the challenges / struggles come from just the omnichain nature of things itself, right? Like whatever you build is pretty much like 7 times as complicated, right? Because there are all those specifics around layer 0 and those smart contracts, but there are also specifics around chains. And actually one issue that I think we just solved it like literally yesterday, we had with BNB Chain is, for example, on BNB Chain, the decimals for the stablecoin are 6. There are 6 decimals in the stablecoin. On every other chain, it's 18. So when you do any kind of like cross-chain payments with BNB Chain, you have to keep that in mind. And we ended up passing the number of decimals when we are interacting with BNB Chain from any other chain in the cross-chain transaction itself. So this doesn't matter for ONFTs, but this does matter a lot for OmniX exchange, our trading vertical. So a lot of the details like that really hinder the speed of the development. And again, like it also comes with layer 0 and Stargate support for some of the chains. So for example, another example, like we really like Moonbeam ecosystem, like Polkadot, because they're very much open, for this like cross-chain feature, but they don't have Stargate deployed on their chain, whether it's liquidity issues or issues between Sushi Swap, who kind of like, I guess, front run Stargate in that regard with Moonbeam. But for whatever reason, like we have a great relationship with Moonbeam. We love making ONFTs, but our like OmniX exchange can't work properly without Stargate on that chain. So that's like another thing. Like just because integrating so many different chains and like tech stacks that come along with it, you have a huge kind of tree of dependencies, right? And this tree of dependencies has to be solid for every other chain out there. And if it's not, then we either have to like do these like quick fixes like we did with BNB and decimals, or we have to figure out an entirely new solution.
So, my 2 cents, I really love the discussion, and, I just will highlight something what I really appreciate how you implement. So, Miracle Trees. I don't know how you did a ceremony of creating a real true entropy, but I really do love how you implement Miracle Trees as a proof of burn, right? Am I right? Right? Yeah, you're using a.
Yeah, we do love Merkle trees indeed. I think Burn does use it on like very basic ONFT level, but we also do use Merkle trees for whitelist to optimize for gas. So, big Merkle tree fan here.
The question, let's go back to the question again. You know, what are some of the pain points that you've personally saw when it comes to deploying and using BNB? Because I think this is a way that we can actually start getting builders and other people involved. Daniel was mentioning how, I didn't even know this, but extremely insightful about the decimal of stablecoin not having the same decimal amount, and this is really key, I think, for him. So what have you guys experienced? Maybe not BNB specifically, but just in general, where are you guys at, and what is sort of the pain points that you're kind of facing now in terms of development?
May not be specific to the BNB, so we still have a limited experience and exposure to the BNB. Yeah, but in general, I feel the blockchain technology is still in the early stage. I would see that. So maybe somebody disagree. But I think the user experience in general hasn't to an optimal point for the general users to be able to tap into the blockchain world and easily. For example, like yeah, we all get used to wallet. Wallet experience is not very optimal. Select the account, choose the chain, and then all the gas can be confusing to the users. They're not very predictable in a lot of cases. There, I received a complaint yesterday, and the customer is telling me that, oh, okay, why the gas rate is so high, and then sometimes it's like $20-$30 for a small amount of the transaction, and sometimes it's much lower. I offer my best explanation on that. So, but out of my control. So this is only part of that the entrance point about for the wallet, and also the all the cross chain Omni NFT. They're building a, I think it's a great area to work on, is to bring more smooth experience for across the chain. But admittedly today it's still a lot of work to do, making sure the cross chain can be transparent to the users there. Right now, if you want to move your digital asset, your digital collectibles across the chain, is still going through a lot of bridge protocols. You need to make manual processing, all this one. So hopefully there be some consolidation of the tools, make this one to be smooth, and then make the entry level onboarding experience to be more smooth for the entry level users. That, I think that's probably, to me, is the biggest pain point, so that we can get mass adoption to the users who has little experience, a little exposure about the blockchain technologies
Interesting.
and the product. Yeah, that's
So,
my reflection.
not really more technical. You guys have a lot of
Yeah.
the technicals, it seems like, really kind of down pat. I mean, I don't think anybody wants to admit that they're having a hard time building, but I mean that's actually totally okay to know that you are actually in the middle of realizing the sheer limitations of what the blockchain actually offers in general, or any blockchain, which is when it comes to wallets, when it comes to really onboarding users and getting them involved to actually even start playing around and using these projects. So it's then maybe like in and around onboarding of users, is it mainly just like a UX UI, understanding like design and flow and usability? Is it really like does it come down to actually having the right person looking at your project and seeing how it's then being implemented? Is that the technical challenge? Because I think most people would be happy to use something that's really great and really usable, but maybe it's not as easy to find the right developer who's actually able to build that sort of experience.
I think this the technical challenge you mentioned on the UI UX. This is part of it, and then some of them agree it can be improved if they through the iteration or get more experienced designer and engineers to work on it, and this is part of the problem. The other part of that, I think, is specific to the NFT. I think the concept of NFT and make this one to be the value to be more perceivable for the general audience, I think is also another impediment we feel along the way. That's why we that's why we start working with the utility NFT. We want to make this one to be useful, but also in parallel we work on the liquidity protocols, make this one to be more treatable. We feel this is two major impediments for the people to adapt into the in general NFT. But in the meanwhile, we want to build our protocol, our product, our use case on top of this two and make this one to be universally available. But this is more specific on the NFT world.
What you mentioned how like one of the pain points is like actually generating and getting in touch with this liquidity, but have you found ways where one can launch an NFT and then get themselves connected inside of like an existing pool, and then that's kind of how you can settle some of the liquidity problem that you do have? Or is it much harder? Am I just thinking of it too linearly? Because I mean, is the problem that not enough of the community and like normal users that are random and from around the world aren't getting involved? Or is it more of like one or two or three people who actually start the project with enough funding? This idea of actually getting a project started with the correct amount of liquidity. What's your take on this here?
I don't have a perfect answer, but of course, as
No
a
worries.
rich the ecosystem definitely will help. Like the chain of the BNB chain is the I see a lot of popular protocols, Uniswap, RV, and to name some of them, they all have a proposal or already have done deployment and with the BNB. This certainly will help. All these building blocks increase the attention from customers and also increase the leverage of asset on those, increase the liquidity on the different aspects there certainly will help. And then you have a bigger pool, and then we can tap in there, and also you have more building blocks we can leverage on that. For example, like one of our liquidity actually is building on top of the Uniswap pool. So if we can leverage, we can also leverage the version on the BNP side, and you have other liquidity pools there. We can leverage on that. It certainly can help.
They're actually in the middle of a vote right now, getting Uniswap V3 on BNB.
V3.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on it. Yeah. So it's certainly exciting. So we see the growth. It's just now one protocol is building is your ecosystem actually is become more and more attractive to developers or to the project like us. So
yeah, we want to make sure that it's easier
really
to build on it. We want to know what sort of components and pieces it looks. Really the goal here is to make sure that everyone knows that you guys are building on here, that the ONFT is also building on here, and that they can leverage these sorts of tools and technologies, and they can put it into their actual projects and find a reason why using BNB is a really advantageous utility. Because I think in terms of modularity, a project can launch itself on BNB and then find many different avenues of success through the layer 2 ZK BNB. You have the Binance like side chain of chains that people can actually launch their own blockchain and make their own contracts or make their own consensus and have their own validators or full nodes running their entire project while being actual interoperable with the entire BNB ecosystem, right? There's all these different chains and there's utilities on BNB, and I think by having interesting projects understand how they can kind of connect and share traits with one another it's kind of how I set up this podcast when I'm trying to set this whole thing up, dude. You have to have OBS, you have to have this and this and this and this all kind of connected together, and it's a mess. And I realize that this is really the pain point in the open source, is that there's a lot of really interesting and cool tools that people can leverage, but then getting them to actually work together to build really awesome projects is kind of hard to figure out on how that all kind of intersects with one another, unless you guys have seen with your own personal, from your point of view, what have you seen that kind of has done this in glue coding of projects? Have you seen anything like this? I mean, there's a few out there. I mean, just to launch a D app, it takes a million different SDKs and packages and things. So, but what do you find that helps the most when it comes to developers developing dApps from your point of view? What do you like?
Actually, I think we mentioned this term composability. I think this is one of the key advantage the Web3 versus the Web2, and is a democracy of the service. And then you build a product, and by nature, it should be building blocks for any of the users. They want to build advanced features out of it, and then they become the service again and again, and this circle continues, and it becomes the incentive for the people to start building the dApps. I think the open world and then the composability make this one really fanatic world. And then then when you're having more protocols, more building blocks in your ecosystem, so the growth is not like a linear 1+1=2. Actually, it will become more exponential, because you're not just by yourself. You basically enabled another's to in a way you don't expect it to, or can hard to imagine. Actually, they can leverage on this different things.
So quick question. So I love that you're saying that in order to build a really great project, you have to build the building blocks, and if you have greater composability, it makes building those building blocks much easier, especially as you iterate and build over time. Because I totally agree with you. There's a lot of dApps that are going from version 1, 2 to 3, then it's going to go all the way up to 10, right? I mean, it's just going to keep. It's going to keep getting better. Everything is going to keep getting better. Wallets are going to keep getting better. Everything is going to keep upgrading itself. So now, and I see how HypeX really kind of fits into this. So can you just like quickly explain to me, because I don't want to make anyone feel who's listening to think that they're just being shilled these protocols without understanding how to build or use with them. So in your personal perspective, when it comes to using HypeX, what can you kind of tell me the process of how you imagine a developer coming to HypeX? They're going to walk in, and then what is it that they use? What is it that they do? What is it that they plug in? What exactly is it that you expect a developer to do with HypeX? Can you tell me about that?
Maybe less from a developer, but first the perspective probably is the NFT easier. What I want is, in short, I want NFT easier to be able to leverage our protocols so that they can finish, design the NFT, issue the NFT, combine the NFT with certain utilities there, and make this one circulated among all the big fans. But meanwhile, that means if you are NFT product developers, you're a developer actually, you want to NFT be part of your ecosystem, you should be able to leverage our protocols to help your customers to easily manage their NFT, augment their NFT with utilities, and circulate them among fans in an efficient way. Long story short.
So I have 2 NFTs that I already have released. I have the axe and the magic short sword. So now I want to go to HypeX. What do I do with these?
Your expectation would be you go to the HypeX, and then with your 2 existing NFTs there, you should be able to augment it with certain utility. For example, you want to make your NFT to be a membership gating ticket to a prestigious club possible, and then by easy configuration combine this one. Then if you want to sell this one to the people who love this combination, and you should be able to find a circle and circulate on that.
I love that. Yeah. So you take existing things and then you just like make them, you give them more life, you give them more breath. That's cool.
Yeah, give them a breath.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys been able to, or have you seen like adding this dynamicism, in converting your static NFT into a dynamic NFT? That kind of process in itself. Do you guys have any use cases? What do you see of it? How's that evolution coming? And it's happening right in front of our eyes.
That's
right?
cool. That's a great question. So how do you guys see? Have you guys seen the transition from static to dynamic? Yeah.
Yes, I think, in order to turn in like static NFTs to dynamic NFTs, one of like, we name it like utilities to the NFTs. So I think the questions for us were one of the, pinpoint for us is what will be the best user interface where UI UX for users can easily integrate with those utilities. Because let's say if you want to turn in your static NFTs into the dynamic NFTs, there's thousands of ways you can make your static NFTs into dynamic NFTs. So for example, like the example that you just used, maybe the NFT will be changeable by the data of stock, will be changed by the stock. So I think for us right now, we're just trying to figuring out what are the users want, or what are the most popular features, utilities, functions that users need. So I think definitely turning the static NFTs into dynamic NFTs will be one of the interesting features or utilities that we're taking a look at it. But currently, we didn't come up with a most standardized ways that can supporting everyone to change their static NFTs to any type of dynamic NFTs. So that's the process we're actually doing. We're working with different partners, customers, clients, projects to figuring out, from their perspective, what will be the most attractable utilities they want to add to their NFT collections. Because after we talking to so many like NFT projects and also working with different projects, we realized everyone have their different needs to making their utility NFTs. So this part we actually need some additional help from the ecosystem developer side. So the developers were projects, they can actually look into our protocols and to come up with new utilities or new interesting features that they want to add to their NFTs, and they can easily just use our standard interface to building their utilities and add to our library. So therefore, in the futures, for people who wants to add in that modulars, they can just add that utilities to their NFT directly.
What other sorts of features do you guys see that are possible? You just don't see them happening quite yet.
Regarding to the utility that we've been seeing, the NFT space are evolving like every day. Every day we're seeing, new projects are bringing new features, functionalities to their new collections. But so far, we think, a lot of, especially like from, traditional Web2 words, they're thinking of NFTs to have utilities. One is definitely membership, like token gating feature. So this is the most popular one that we've been asked to help the projects to deploy. And second is loyalty programs. So it's still pretty much the utilities that most NFT projects are looking for still bind with the existing Web2 type of features. And we believe probably we will see more like Web3 or crypto native utilities that will be adding to the space. For example, like dynamic NFTs, right? We've been seeing the projects working with like MDAs. So therefore, the NFT itself will be dynamically changed based on the gaming results. So, but we didn't see the result yet. So we definitely would love to see more and more those more like crypto or NFT Web3 native features being out. For example, like a lot of projects right now providing staking ability to their NFTs. So I think that will be another core utilities that we can add to our utility collections to let projects easily to add in these features to their collection.
Awesome. So before I ask my last question, I love this discussion. totally see where this is going. I'm thinking in terms of podcasts. I'm thinking in terms of music with the royalty programs, and there's probably plenty of projects, including even bread and butter. If we ever do like an NFT drop, it would be very cool to see an NFT actually provide the monetization royalties back to the listeners of the actual podcast for like sharing, or maybe like membership programs where there's a login with token gating, and token gating meaning like I can't get inside of this particular forum or website. You know, maybe even like integrations with Mastodon in the future once we kind of skip over Discord, or even through Discord. And there's all sorts of variations that I think with like many different tools using membership as an option as being a part of an NFT community can really strengthen its use. And so I think even like with the BNB forum, there's a developer portal, and every developer has their own like profile picture and like, you know, name, and like what are they, C++ developer, and you know, whatever else, and there's like a picture. It would be cool to have an NFT that then you can actually donate, you know, money to, and this NFT evolves over time, and maybe this NFT gets you certain access to different, you know, podcasts like this. Maybe you get on to the show or something. Who knows? It could be a lot of interesting things that I think communities can start looking at as more of a possibility, rather than having to know what a dynamic NFT really is. It's just by knowing what qualities and features does a dynamic NFT essentially give versus a static NFT. So I think that would be motivating. I'm imagining that's what originally motivated you guys to begin with, when you guys saw the possibility of dynamic NFTs really changing the scene of how NFTs were going to kind of evolve in the future. What's your guys' roadmap? What's your, you know, what are you expected to do this year? What are you most excited for?
Yeah, so for the roadmap this year, definitely, you know, we already finished off the like interface with infrastructures for the utility gateway, and for this year, we definitely would love to working with more, you know, projects to bring up more utilities to the communities. But also, probably in Q3, we will open, you know, permissionless development environment to encourage more developers to use our infrastructure interface directly to building more utilities for, you know, upcoming or existing NFT collections. So this is from like a utility part, but also from the liquidity part, we really finished the first version, and it literally just deployed like yesterday. So we will test it out this month internally, and next month we will inviting, you know, people in the very strong blockchain Web3 background just to play around, give us feedbacks, so therefore we can ship better products. And in March, we will opening for, you know, public beta testing, to allowing, you know, more users just to test out the product platform, etc. So yeah, that's pretty much like in short of our, you know, roadmap this year, and we're super bullish about the market. Although we've been suffering last year the markets, but we believe in, you know, we see more and more players into the space, especially some like big name players, right? We're seeing more and more, you know, people getting into the Web3, getting into the NFT space.
That's great. This is great. Stark, Zin, and Daniel, you know, when you listen back to this, thank you so much for coming on and telling us about your story, about what you guys are doing, how you guys fit into the picture. And I can't wait to see what you guys do by March, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can help you. And yeah, guys, thank you so much for your time, and you know, I hope that you guys keep building. It's gonna be great. I'm excited.
Thank you so much. I really honored to be included here. So yeah, love the competition.
Likewise, thank you so
man,
much.
Thank you.